Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another old school, really simple RPG that we're going to review with Lex in the top right corner over there. Game read through with friend Lex Mandrake in the top right corner. Super exciting. This is came out in 2020, so this is a little older, but this is World of Dungeons. And I see two menacing goblin faces on the website under some kind of radiating sun of awfulness. What is World of Dungeons?
World of Dungeons is... I'm going to also point out that World of Dungeons was released in 2012.
Oh, it was? Oh, I see published 2020.
Well, I could have sworn it was released in 2012 because I thought I read that somewhere. I could be wrong, though. The book itself says 1979 because they're joking.
Yeah.
But so who knows when it was released? But World of Dungeons is a minimalist adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, like old school TSR style Dungeons and Dragons, mixed with Powered by the Apocalypse, written by John Harper, noted creator of games such as Lasers and Feelings and Blades in the Dark. So pretty prolific dude.
I do love Blades in the Dark, and you are correct. It does say 2012. I looked at under more information. It says published, but maybe that was a update or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
or published on Itch.
Oh, on
maybe?
Itch,
I bet.
maybe. Yeah.
But this says release date 2012. So yeah, page count 3. So
page count,
pretty good, pretty
big,
exciting.
Big page count on this one, and it is also free 99.
Yeah.
So if you want to pick this up, you should, just because you don't have to pay for it. This is, I mean, in terms of the way it's. So it's 3 pages, but it's really laid out as like a 6-page document, and it's like double spread. So it's 6 pages, but 2 of those are character sheets. One of them is just names for your characters, like a name table, and half of one of those pages is a piece of art. So it's really like a 2.5-page game, which is very impressive. The sections of the text of this game includes things such as equipment, which is the stuff you'd expect to see in a fantasy RPG. It's got the prices, there's damage or armor values where applicable. There's a hirelings section, because it just wouldn't be old school D&D without hirelings. There is a magic section. This seems to be specifically arcane magic, judging by what we read further in the text. But it's a fun little flexible system that we can talk about a little more later. Seems inspired by fictions such as like Moorcock kind of fantasy fiction. And also speaks a lot to the implied setting of this game, which again we'll get into later. Then we have character creation, which gives you a thing for generating your stat arrays. Those who watched our previous video on, Mini BX, this game actually uses a similar idea where you're not generating an ability score, you're generating the modifier that ability score would have given you. And you're generating it with 2d6 and a Powered by the Apocalypse style table to get you a result of between a 0 modifier or a +3 modifier, so mapping to D&D kind of stuff. You get to choose a skill, which are all listed on the character sheets.
Yeah.
Which is nice. The character sheets actually tell you a little bit of game rules that the text doesn't. Like, it tells you your speed, which is fun. And it gives you, all the skills and all the special abilities.
So are those special abilities statted to specific stats? Like
no, but they are connected to specific classes, which we're going to get into. Sense. Oh, and I should say the 2d6 Powered by the Apocalypse, to get your modifiers, you are getting modifiers for the standard ability scores of D&D, right? So strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma is what this game is using. So you do that. The next thing the rules talk about is your hit points, which is a little different than D&D in the sense that you get hit dice. They're all D6s. This game only uses D6s. You get hit dice with D6s, but it's like every time you wake up from a long rest, you re-roll your hit points and then write them down. So, you get D6 for level plus D6 for con modifier. So theoretically, you're going to get a much bigger pool if you're like a fighter type right? And then you're going to have more hit points, but you could have that really weird situation where your fighter who's rolling like 3d6 and your wizard who's rolling 1d6, your wizard ends up with 6 hit points and your fighter ends up with 3 hit points. But luckily, every time you rest, that gets to rejigger. So,
and I like this, if I am resting and consuming a ration, I can re-roll one of those.
Yep.
And if I am with a healer or a cleric, you get an extra one to roll. So it's almost like not a temporary HP, but I like that. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it shows how items can help you out and how classes can help you out in a very simple way, which is nice. So then it gets into classes. So we have 5 classes in this. And the 5th one was not one I was expecting, let me tell you. We've got fighters, thieves, clerics, wizards, and rangers are a base class for this game. I know, but they're good. They're just as good as any of the other ones. And they get pets. So cool. So the classes get a main... what is it called? Skill, and then they get you get to choose from 4 different special abilities. Which there's 4 for each class, and you just get to I think choose 2. And the class descriptions list out what they do, and they have little mechanical benefits. After that, it talks about rolling the dice, which is just like, hey, do you know how Powered by the Apocalypse works? It's that we're restating the Powered by the Apocalypse engine.
Yeah.
So that's that little thing. And then there is a little blurb here for the Die of Fate, which seems to just be a catch-all for the DM to produce a random outcome if they want. It's actually one of the only things in this doc where I was like, yeah, you didn't really need this. You probably could have thrown this out. I don't need like a paragraph to tell me as a DM that I can roll a die to randomize an outcome. Like I just don't need it.
Whoa! I made it too big. Sorry.
Ooh.
Yeah. I need it so people
yeah.
can see, but our heads are in the way. It's terrible.
Terrible
streaming design, Jordan.
Yeah, Jordan. Jeez. How are you a successul YouTuber? Get out of here.
Yeah.
Then we have XP and levels. You're very successful. Come on. We have XP and levels, which just gives a chart that gives you, level progression, like how much experience you need, what kind of bonuses you're going to get, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now I have played Monsters. No, what is that? Powered by the Apocalypse?
Monster of the Week?
Monster of the Week. Mm-hmm. This is interesting where they're doing a more traditional XP path from original Dungeons & Dragons.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, like, baseline Powered by the Apocalypse, what's the XP system there? Do you know?
Funny story, I've never read Apocalypse World, the original Powered by the Apocalypse game. I've just never cracked it. I don't have any idea.
I'm curious if this is a representation of that or a representation of D&D. I'm assuming D&D because of the way it's laid out, but
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's D&D. I'm pretty sure that the only thing this borrows from PbtA games is just the 2d6 resolution system. Right. And the fact that this game only uses d6s. There's no other die types. Yeah. Like, heavier weapons just are like a d6 plus 1 or a d6 plus 2 for damage. They don't, you don't scale dice. And it uses XP or gold for XP or silver for XP in this. And it even says, you can get XP for killing monsters, but, very little. It's not worth it. Just get silver.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. And yeah, then, like I said, last page is just a list of names.
Yeah. True names have power, which is...
Yeah.
So I like that it's...
That is very cool. It's like people can raise you from the dead if they know your true name, and they can, use magic to control you if they know your true name, which is a really cool bit of setting that this introduces. Also, all the names are split into territories like the Northlands, the Imperium, the Regency, Xanathar and Islands. Xanathar, that's already from something. Come on. The Uru and the Great Desert. Two names I can't pronounce for the last thing. But that's also a fun little bit of implied setting and just a bunch of fun little names that you can grab. The whole document's done up. I mean, you're seeing it on the screen right now. But the whole document's done up to look like a late 70s TSR product.
That font on the top, that's straight up World of
The
Dungeons.
the
Stained.
do you have the black and white version, or do you have the color version with like the watermarked pages?
Yeah, I have both. So I have the watermarked pages is what I'm showing now. So
Yeah. I love that. It just looks like an old module. And on one of the last pages, they talk about how it's they have a fake publication year, which is 1979. Yeah, World of Dungeons. 1979 by J.S. Harper with C. McDowell, 1N7 Tactical Design Institute, Seattle, Washington, which is also not a company. So yeah, what is your overall take on this now that we've like gone through the sections? I know I want to talk about magic a little more in depth. I have some overall thoughts on the game, but was there anything that really jumped out at you from the text?
Pets. So I feel like a lot of RPGs, a lot of people want pets, and we don't really talk about how to get them. And for a class, well, this has hirelings in it, so this is like old school D&D in that sense. But straight up, it talks about the ranger having an animal companion, and you can converse with other animals and things like that. So I thought that was really cool. And why that stands out to me is down there it says special abilities on the character sheet. And I know that that's supposed to be separate, but I really want pet volley to be something where I can just, that's the skill I want. Well, and they're like, no, Jordan, you take pet or volley. And I'm like, no, I really want pet volley. I want to like...
In your mind, is pet volley throwing a large number of hamsters, or is it your hamster throwing something at your opponent?
I think it's me throwing a large number of hamsters.
Good.
But it reminds me, you seem like an educated chap. Have you watched the animated The Tick?
No. I'm sorry, I haven't.
Okay, you're not as educated and scholarly as I thought you were.
I'm not cultured. I haven't seen animated The Tick.
In animated The Tick, there is a woman who has a poodle gun. And Pet Volley reminds me of the poodle gun because she's got this huge bazooka. The Tick's just like, what do you got in that poodle gun? And then she turns and just like dogs shoot out and attack him. And he's like, oh, poodles. Wouldn't have thought that. It's really funny. I don't know. It's simple. It's fun. Like, I don't think I would play this off the top of my head. Like, I know the designer. We mentioned Blades in the Dark, which is a fantastic game. Super, super awesome game that I have played and really enjoy. The setting, I think the whole thing's really cool. And this is a nice little simple version of fantasy powered by the apocalypse. I almost wish that they had just not made it D&D and did something else kind of cool with it. I don't know. Because I have BX D&D. I have all of these other things, which are more complicated, but I don't really need a simplified version of that. So,
sure. I mean, that's fair. I find myself very attracted to the simplicity of this system just because I'm like, oh, I could just play it. There's so little that I have to do or remember. But I think it really is only going to work well for one shots. I've heard other people talk about this in relation to this game as well. But if you look at the character advancement system and you look at the way special abilities work, all the special abilities are very general and balanced to each other in terms of their power level. They're either entirely narrative, like the pet ability, which just says you have a loyal and affectionate animal companion, and that's literally all that ability says. Mm-hmm. So either they're very narrative, or they're like, oh, you have +2 to hit with ranged weapons, or something like that, right? And as you advance in level, you get more special abilities, but because they're all balanced to each other, you're just getting more options of things to do, but you're not getting more powerful things to do. And I feel like that probably wouldn't be very satisfying if you're trying to play a long-term campaign. But that's pretty easy to fix if you're into hacking stuff. You can just introduce more special abilities that are level-gated. And I feel like that would... if you can figure out kind of the balance of this game so you're not making those abilities too good or not good enough for the level gate, I think that would probably be a fine thing to just alter and you'd be good. And I think that this game could really use... a setting to flesh out a lot of the stuff in it.
Very much so. I think a setting, not only with this, but maybe this is just me being like picky. I would like a meta setting in a way where it's this like fictional world, but it's very aware of itself being a game, you know? Like I think that the spin on it that way I would find it very attractive, where I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like it knows it's a game, and you go places and they're like, well, you know, I don't know, I'm not going to sell you this because if I do, I'll get 2 silver from you and level up, and I can't level up yet, or so, I don't know, like something silly like that. But I love the inspiration that this brings, like Uru in the Great Desert. That just seems like a really cool anime that I haven't seen yet, and I need to.
Yeah, no, I wanna know more about that, right? I want to know like what kind of magic items populate this world. I want to know what kind of monsters show up in this world, because we don't get anything like that in here. We don't really even know what a monster stat block looks like, but I assume it's probably not more than a line worth, considering how complex the rest of the game is. I wanted to circle back to the magic system real quick. It's really cool. Like, it's like a third of a page, and it's most magic requires summoning a spirit, demon, or elemental to perform supernatural effects. And then it talks about how the wizard gets to start by knowing 2 spirits, have knowledge of 2 spirits, and each spirit has like 2 domains, such as like flame or water or some other element, or it could be not an element. I just can't think of non-element things right now.
So you have a spirit, and that spirit represents 2 domains. So I have like a flame shadow spirit, or a secrets lightning spirit is what it says. These are the examples. So
yes. And then when you want to perform magic, it gives you 3 options. So you can either perform an hour-long ritual, kind of like 10-minute rituals in 5th edition. It's the idea that you're not effectively using a spell slot if you do this, but it takes you a long time to do it. And when you're performing this magic, you're summoning up that spirit and calling on them to perform a supernatural task in accordance with the domains that they have. So if you're like, I want to set this bad guy on fire, you're probably not going to do the 1 hour uninterrupted ritual for that. But what you could do is you could take a dose of Quicksilver, which is a mild poison and addictive drug, which is listed in the equipment section. It has, this is where the spell slot aspect comes in, where the Quicksilver, you can drink it a certain number of times per day equal to your level. And then if you try to drink it more times than that, you have to make con saves or you're going to start getting hurt.
I like that a lot, because you could push it if you really needed to cast more spells.
Yeah. And then the third option is you have a magic item that literally has the spirit bound inside it, and then you can call on them whenever, which seems like the solution for like high level characters, right? You're a high level, you have found this magic item, and now you have access to this maybe lesser spirit that can give you lesser spell effects consistently without having any kind of toll. And it's really cool because it has so much potential flavor for setting stuff. Like, you could create a setting where it's like, here's a list of the different spirits and demons and elementals and their domains and like what their personalities are like. So when you're summoning them up, this is how you're going to interact with them and stuff. That would be so cool. I would love to see stuff like that.
I would love a mini game where you barter for magic from your spirit.
Totally. That'd
kind
be
of
very
like
cool.
old Jack Vance style. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
So I love that. By contrast, though, it actually makes clerics very boring, because clerics just have bless, cure, turn, and vision, which is like, you know, they see a vision from their god or whatever.
Oh, okay. For guidance, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. They don't get spellcasting in any sense other than that, right? So it just makes me feel like, oh, I mean, clerics are fine in terms of mechanical balance, but they're so much less interesting than wizards are. Like, so much less interesting.
Yeah.
So, that's another thing. Like, I would do something to expand how divine magic and gods work to make that a more interesting thing to play, I think. So, yeah, I think my overall thoughts on this game is that it's really tight, it's really minimal, it's a really good translation of like old school D&D with the Powered by the Apocalypse system merged to it. And I think there's a lot of merit in that, and I like that a lot. That appeals to me personally a lot. It probably only works best for one-shots, but if you want to put some elbow grease into it, you could probably fix that. And if you want to like build a setting for this, you can expand on a lot of the things in it, because a lot of the way it's written is sort of like fertile ground to be expanded upon.
Yeah,
which is a really good thing to have in your game.
And I feel like Powered by the
people have done
Apocalypse,
that.
because it's also free, like this is meant to be tinkered with 100%. And already looking at it, I'm like, well, what's the problem with giving a skill clerics could get that allows them to do like magic up to their level a day or something, you know? Well, that is World of Dungeons. Go check it out. It's free, 2012, and it's pretty cool. I don't know if I'd play it, but no, I would definitely play it if somebody wanted to run it, because I would be curious how this works out.
Yeah,
So.
and I don't know if I would play it or run it vanilla, but if I was gonna like make some cool stuff with it, then I definitely would use it as a base for something else.
That's cool. What would you like to see more of this? Like, would you like to see this expanded and actually get like a monster manual, because we were talking about monsters, or specific spells?
Well, here's the thing. I haven't researched it that heavily, but like you were saying, this is almost a decade old.
Yeah.
A decade old in a couple months, probably.
Yeah.
And it's been on itch for a little while. I'm pretty sure if you search around itch, you'll probably find people who have done just this.
Oh,
and
right, yeah.
I'm not familiar with those products because I haven't looked into them, but there might be some really cool stuff out there that's worth exploring if, again, like me, you like this as a base system and you want to see what else might be out there for it. That is the advantage to looking at products that have been out a long time, is there might be a lot of cool support for them.
This is awesome. So thank you so much again for joining us. We're going to continue with these whenever we find interesting ones that we want to talk about. But World of Dungeons, go check it out. Links down below to both Lex and to John Harper's itch here with World of Dungeons. And we will see you guys in another video where we talk about cool little RPGs. Take care.